Hello, everybody. So, for this week, I've decided to do a video newsletter again, and it's been a crazy couple weeks since the last one. We've finished classes today. We went to Nicaragua last weekend. Jen went back to Guatemala, and we've got some updates on outreach, and we've got a new YWAM base, which is really cool. So, today was the last day of classes, which is crazy. We've had 12 weeks of lecture phase, as I talked about before, and this week we ended on the Kingdom of God, which is a really broad and unknown topic in my opinion, but it was a really cool week to figure out what defines kind of the Kingdom of God and how to live it out in our lives, which also seems really Christianese, but it was a really good week. So last week we went to Nicaragua for a visa run because we can only be in Costa Rica for 90 days at a time. And it was a lot of fun, and it was also like a mini outreach. Mainly because it was 2 days of almost solid traveling, and there were a lot of delays, and a lot of closed roads because down here it was Independence Day. So we were delayed about 5 hours. We missed our hostel reservations, and we had to wait for God to provide another hostel that was in a long weekend and also would hold 15 people. But we did it! It was also really cool to be able to watch the sunset on the beach in the water and then to have delicious food on the beach. So a lot has also happened with Jen since she came back from the hospital a couple weeks ago. Since she was so immobilized and wasn't able to get to classes, she had to drop out of the DTS program. She was staying on base, but since the base doesn't have the resources to take care of her, she had to go back to Guatemala on Friday. Where she was living previously, and so she's going to finish her recovery down there. Last week, it was really hard to say goodbye to her. We got really close, and she was also in a lot of pain when we left, so that was really difficult. But I do know that Guatemala was the best place for her, and she's going to be taken care of the best down there, and she has such an amazing adopted family. But we have a new addition to our team. He's not a replacement to Jen, but Rolando will be finishing the last phase of our program with us, with our team. So he was in the last discipleship training school, but he had problems with his visa, so he wasn't able to do outreach, so he's going to be finishing with us, which is really cool. We are very excited to add him to our team, as he'll be kind of balancing out the boy-to-girl ratio. Before we had 10 girls and 4 boys, and now we have 9 girls and 5 guys. One thing that I have been reading a lot of during this time has been miracles. How when God calls you to do something, no matter how much the cost or risk, He'll provide, especially financially. And so I have been reading countless stories of God providing crazy amounts of money in His perfect time. But they were all just stories until last week. God had called some of our leaders to start a new base in Limon on the Caribbean side of Costa Rica, and once they found property that they felt God was calling them to buy, they decided that they were going to try and buy it, but they didn't have any of the money for it. And after a series of events, they came up with a contract and found a sponsor, and last week they had to sign the lease for it and pay for it. And in a 3-hour period, they needed to have over $200,000 transferred into their account, which down here is a really big deal. That's a lot of money. But in that time, it came within hours of needing it, which is amazing. I've never witnessed such a crazy miracle before. So that being said, we've changed some plans of our outreach so that we are going to be working at the base in Puerto Viejo first in order to start cleaning it up and just making it livable, as it is 10 times the size of our current base and there are crocodiles there. So we're going to be going there first, and then once we come back, we're going to be going to Amsterdam and France still. We're going to be doing 3 weeks as planned originally in the red light district and working with refugees in France. And hopefully we'll be back by November 19th. So one thing, if you could pray for, is team unity. Starting next week, we're going to be doing a trip called Nico, which is an outdoor week-long adventure in the jungle. It is a survival trip, and we can hardly bring anything. We can't even bring deodorant or toilet paper. So please pray that the people, like that our team, embrace it and trust that God will provide all of our needs. I'm very excited for it, except for that there's no coffee. Also for our contacts in Amsterdam and France, we are currently finalizing our plans. So if, we are praying for discernment and wisdom on which areas we should specifically be focusing on and to who we should specifically minister to, like what specific ministries. Finally, if you could also pray for finances. I'm still very short on finances. For the outreach phase, I now owe $3,160. So if you are able to donate at all, it'd be very appreciated. You could PayPal or e-transfer it to me at Mennie, AMENNIE @hotmail.com, or you could donate check or cash to my mom Mary at 604-290-4243. I'm very excited for the next part of our adventure, but it's definitely going to be challenging. We've got to finally put to practice everything we've learned in class, so there's definitely going to be many more stories ahead. Thank you for all of your prayers and support, and I'm excited to hear that the teacher strike is finally over. Yoo! Love y'all. Bye.